You've probably heard it before. If you have a problem, just talk to someone. It's well-meaning advice. And sometimes venting can feel like a relief in the moment. But what happens after you've poured your heart out, explained every detail, and shared your frustration? Most of the time, not much. The truth is, as harsh as it may sound, most people don't care about your problems the way you think they do. And that's not because people are heartless or indifferent. It's because everyone is carrying their own weight. Everyone is dealing with their own struggles, navigating their own challenges, and often they're too consumed with their own lives to truly care about yours. When you unload your problems on others, it's easy to believe that they're listening deeply, feeling what you're feeling, and that somehow their understanding will help you resolve what's going on. But the reality is, most of the time, they'll nod along, offer a few words of sympathy or advice, and then move on with their day. Your problem, which feels monumental to you, is just a passing conversation to them. It's not that people don't care at all. It's that they can't care as deeply as you do because they're not the ones going through it. You might think that sharing your problems will somehow lessen the burden, that by getting it off your chest, you'll feel lighter. But more often than not, after the conversation ends, you're still stuck with the same issue. The problem hasn't changed and the burden hasn't been lifted. In fact, sometimes sharing your struggles with others can make you feel even more isolated, especially when their response doesn't match the intensity of what you're feeling. You're left thinking, don't they understand? Can't they see how much this is affecting me? But the truth is, no one can fully understand what you're going through except you. Your pain, your frustration, your struggles, they are uniquely yours. Now, this isn't to say you should never share your feelings or that opening up is inherently bad. There's a time and place for everything, and sometimes talking to a trusted friend or family member can provide valuable perspective. But there's a difference between seeking support and expecting someone else to carry your load. The moment you start relying on others to solve your problems or make you feel better, you give away your power. You place your emotional well-being in the hands of someone else, and that's a risky position to be in. People are inconsistent. They have their own lives, their own priorities, and more often than not, they won't be there for you in the way you need them to be. Not because they don't want to, but because they simply can't. One of the hard lessons of life is that at the end of the day, you are responsible for your own happiness, your own success, and your own peace. No one else is going to do that work for you. And while it might feel comforting to share your struggles with others, it's not going to bring about the change you're looking for. Real change, real progress comes from within. It comes from facing your problems head on without the need for external validation or sympathy. When you stop telling people about your problems, something shifts. You begin to realize just how much strength you have. You start to rely on yourself more. You stop looking for someone else to fix things for you. And instead, you take control. That's where true growth happens, in the moments when you decide to handle your business without needing anyone else's approval or advice. It's in those quiet moments of struggle, when no one else is watching, that you build resilience, grit, and character. There's also an element of self-respect that comes with not broadcasting your problems to the world. When you keep your challenges to yourself, you maintain your dignity. You show yourself and others that you're capable of handling life's difficulties without needing to put them on display. And while it's tempting to share every hardship with those around you, there's a quiet power in keeping some things private. Not everything needs to be shared. Not every struggle needs to be turned into a story. People are often more interested in the highlights of your life than the low points. They're quick to celebrate your successes, but slow to sit with you in your failures. That's just human nature. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that you have to be selective about who you share your struggles with, if you share them at all. Most people are not equipped to handle your problems, and expecting them to do so will only lead to disappointment. This doesn't mean you should shut yourself off from the world or never seek help. There are times when reaching out for support is the right thing to do, but it's important to understand that no one will ever care about your problems the way you do. Your pain, your frustration, and your challenges are yours to navigate. And the sooner you stop looking for others to solve them for you, the sooner you realize how much strength and power you really have. So instead of telling people about your problems, start working on the solution. Use the energy you would have spent venting to others to make real progress. Focus on what you can control and let go of the need for external validation. Because at the end of the day, the only person who can carry you through your struggles is you. And once you embrace that, you'll find that you're stronger, more capable, and more resilient than you ever thought possible. Complaining is one of those habits that often feels like it gives us a release, a way to express frustration or dissatisfaction with the things in life that don't go our way. We all do it from time to time. It's natural to feel overwhelmed, stressed, or upset when things aren't going as we like, and it's easy to fall into the trap of vocalizing those frustrations. But here's the hard truth: complaining doesn't fix the problem. It never has, and it never will. Think about the times when you've been in a tough spot. Maybe it's work stress, maybe it's a relationship issue, or maybe it's just the day-to-day grind of life getting to you. You vent, you express your frustration, and for a moment you might feel a little lighter. But when the words leave your mouth, what has actually changed? The situation remains the same. The problem that led you to complain in the first place hasn't gone anywhere. You're still left to deal with it. Complaining may feel like a temporary release, but it's just that temporary. The issue with complaining is that it focuses your energy in the wrong direction. Instead of channeling your mental and emotional resources toward finding a solution, you're essentially spinning your wheels, fixating on what's wrong instead of what can be done about it. It's like being stuck in quicksand. Complaining only pulls you deeper into the negative emotions without offering any real way out. The more you complain, the more you reinforce the mindset that the problem is too big, too difficult, or too unfair to overcome. In many ways, complaining is a passive act. It doesn't require any real action or effort, and that's why it's so easy to fall into. When you complain, you're essentially giving up your power to change the situation. You're admitting, whether you realize it or not, that you're stuck, and instead of doing something about it, you're choosing to wallow in it. It becomes a vicious cycle. The more you complain, the more powerless you feel, and the less likely you are to take meaningful steps to solve the problem. Now, let's be clear. There's a difference between venting and complaining. Venting is a way to release pent-up emotions. And when done sparingly and in the right context, it can actually be helpful. Venting to a close friend or family member who genuinely listens and supports, you can provide a much-needed emotional outlet. But venting should be a temporary release, not a habit. It should be followed by action. If all you ever do is vent without taking any steps to address the root of the problem, then you've crossed the line into complaining. When we complain, we also give away our accountability. We shift the blame to external circumstances, our boss, our partner, the economy, the weather, anything but ourselves. Complaining allows us to sidestep responsibility. But here's the thing: while you can't control everything that happens to you, you can always control how you respond. And complaining is not a productive response. It's an emotional reaction that keeps you stuck in the very situation you're unhappy with. The most successful people, those who are truly thriving in their personal and professional lives, don't waste time complaining. They understand that complaining is a distraction from progress. Instead, they focus on solutions. They recognize the problem, yes, but then they immediately shift their attention to what they can do about it. It's not that they don't face challenges, everyone does. But instead of wasting time lamenting their difficulties, they take action. Action is what changes things. When you face a problem, no matter how big or small, the only thing that will make a difference is what you do about it. Complaining keeps you stuck in the problem, whereas action moves you toward the solution. And the truth is, many of the problems we complain about are things we actually have control over. We just don't want to admit it because taking action requires effort. And it's often easier to complain than to put in the work. Think about your